Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Let me give a warm welcome to Mark Smutek, Waterstreet. Give him a big hand. So what I'm going to do is actually get Mark to answer certain questions. I'm going to try to get him to relax a little bit. That's my goal. If I don't do that, then I haven't done my job. And so what we're going to do is chat, he and I, in front of you all for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then we're going to open it up to questions and answers. So as we're talking, be thinking about your questions so that we keep the conversation going. Just a little bit about Mark. Mark actually is a Western Michigan University grad. Right? He's a Michigan native. All right, very good. And he started Waterstreet Coffee Joint. The first one was just basically one block from here. He was looking outside his window when he was working with the Heritage Company, which was that old dog at that time.
Yep.
And so he kept on looking at that building, and that building, I believe, was a gas station.
Yeah, originally it was a gas station, but when I got it, it was like a nothing. Yeah, they were washing cars there.
So and you had to put the mechanical, the electrical, the plumbing in there. So you did that all by yourself.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's kind of sit down and talk about that a little bit. And so you're sitting at the Heritage Company, which is actually a company that goes around looking for old doors, old windows, and I believe Roger is the founder, and he's now one block this way.
Correct.
So he moved from Old Dog, and now what happens is he actually helped you with some of the stuff that you put into the downtown Waterstreet Coffee Joint. So kind of, let's go back basically 22 years in 1993, and let's see what's going through your mind to actually start a coffee shop. And you're not too old. How old were you when you started it?
Oh, I was 22, 23.
Great hair?
No, unfortunately that's changed a little.
Well, at least you have hair, right?
Right. What's left? Yes. You know, Roger was a huge influence on me in the whole building salvage thing. I just had a love for architecture and a love for old buildings, and I just kind of had a love for this neighborhood. I think one of your questions was kind of why, and this area was really beat up 23 years ago. There just was a rawness to it, and I guess I always had an affinity for that. I spent a lot of my high school years in downtown Detroit, and even back then it was really a lot rougher than it is now, but there was always a certain beauty to that. And so in coming here, I kind of felt a lot of that same thing. It was a very small version of it, but there was a sort of a beauty in this neighborhood and in its rawness. But there also was a lot of great things. Of course, Bell's was across the street, and they were a huge anchor, as well as the Emporium. The late Emporium, unfortunately, was a big influence and big anchor on the neighborhood, and Roger was too. So there was some stuff here, but there was still a lot of rawness and a lot of need for kind of everything back then. So it was an opportunity. That's how I saw it.
An opportunity. Why did you think of an opportunity versus a problem or an issue then? What were you thinking about? I mean, think about, I know you've mentioned your family in the past and very good with your hands, trades and so forth. So you were able to see something that someone else wasn't able to see, or they would have started before he. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know if I thought about it that way, but yeah. And I think it was just too, at that time, too weird of an idea, or too crazy. I remember my landlord, who finally rented me that building, just thought I was absolutely nuts. You know, he just didn't get it. And I think at that time, saying, hey, you wanted to open up a coffee shop in an old beat up gas station, people just thought you were crazy. And I probably was, and I know I still am in some ways. So it's just, I don't know, I had a love for it and just stayed with it. I can't really explain it. I was very romanced by the whole thing, and that's really a huge thing for me, is to feel some sort of connection and romance with the project, or can't get into it, can't take it on.
You had mentioned to me construction, food, and coffee
Yeah.
were the three driving points for starting a business for you. You couldn't start a restaurant.
Yeah.
You couldn't start, I think you also mentioned a CD store was the other one.
Yeah, it was going to be between a used CD store and a coffee shop, and I'm so glad I stuck with coffee. Yeah.
The music business is a little different.
Yeah.
Do you still love music?
Oh, I have a huge love for music. Yeah.
What are you listening to right now?
Gosh, I've had a little bit more time lately. I've seen some great music in the last year. I just saw Chibo Motto. I don't know how far back some people go, but Chibo Motto in San Francisco late last year. I saw Sleater Kinney in Chicago just recently, and then TV on the radio last week in Chicago. But I have a huge range of things I like, but that's somewhat
live music, not CDs.
Well, I love Spotify too. I don't know if everyone's Spotify fans here or not. I know some people hate it, some people love it. I'm in the love category. So yeah, but when I can see live music, love to do so. Yeah.
So you start a coffee shop, but you didn't just sell from day one, and you didn't just leave your job from day one. If I remember right, you actually spent a year still working at the Heritage Company.
I actually the day that kind of started the coffee shop was my last day at the Heritage Company, and then I very gratefully never had another job since then, and been able to keep me alive on some level, keep me alive from day one. So I feel very fortunate. Yeah.
So let's talk about the size of Waterstreet now. So profitable?
Profitable, yep, and always has been. Some years more than others, some barely years, but definitely we're doing well.
And you were the only employee for how long?
You know, I found some old tax returns and recently was throwing some stuff out, and I think it was probably about 6 to 8 months I was the only employee, and then got one and then another, and yeah.
So how many employees now, how many stores, and how many catering locations in your roaster?
Yep, we have 4 stores, and we have a commissary kitchen out on 9th Street and 94. I have a beautiful kitchen out there in the old Dana Corporation building, and where we make all the food, and it's delivered throughout the days to the stores. And also do catering. Catering is a very small part of the business, but it's always steadily growing, and that happens out of the kitchen too. And then our roasting facility is on the edge of the Stewart neighborhood in an old Bowers lighter building that I bought probably about 98, and it's our offices and roasting and warehouse.
You live downtown?
I am going to be living more downtown. I'm trying to finish an apartment in the roasting building. It's something I've been working on for a long time, and happy to see that come through. And we'll be living. I guess is that downtown? Unfortunately we don't consider the edge of the neighborhoods here downtown, but
it's close to the center.
Yes,
if you look at the
close to the city center. Yes.
So
Yeah.
You can walk to downtown.
Yes.
Or walk to the Kalamazoo Mall.
Correct.
You're very resourceful with your hands and with the way you think. You use the Heritage Company's connections with Roger, and he was very supportive. And that was a very good blessing in terms of support from him. You've had support from your family during those days. Can you go through how the resourcefulness has actually helped you during the early days and now, and how it might have actually held you back in some of the things you've been doing?
That's a great question, because in high school and even through grade school to some level had a lot of family doing construction and projects, and then went to Western and worked for a couple of builders in town here. So I had all the basic trades. I could do basic electrical, I could do basic plumbing, basic HVAC, carpentry, some concrete work. And that allowed me to not really hire anybody because I didn't have any money anyway when we started, so that was great. But I think as time went on, there was a point where, and even to this day, I'm still doing a huge amount of that stuff, but maybe to a flaw. And so kind of there's a point in your businesses, if you guys choose to go that route, is knowing like that your highest and best use. And there was a lot of times where I just probably should have brought somebody else in and hired it and paid them to do it because they were going to do it better, faster, and ultimately cheaper than I could, even though I was thinking, oh, I'd save all this money doing it myself. And I did, but I think there was a lot of things that were a lot more useful of my time than fixing. But I had a love for it and could do it, so you did it. Yeah, so did it.
So let's use an example. Today, let's go through what you did today, and then let's go through what you did the first day of opening the business.
Today I'm gonna skip today. Today was day to skip. I'll just tell you about a day in general. A day in general is like a fingerprint. Every day is different, and I think for some people that wouldn't work well, but for me it does. I think I have a hard time staying focused on anything for more than a very short period of time. So, you know, some days you can get up and have a meeting with our manager and go over whatever we need to talk about that happened over the weekend, and then move to a meeting where we got to go fix something with the fix-it guy because he needs a hand for a little bit, and go fix something, and then jump back to dealing with accounting or hiring some new staff. We do a lot of coffee cupping and a lot of food tasting. That's a big part of it. So every day is a little bit different, and for me that's been great and kept it fun and exciting, and it's always kind of dynamic and changing, and I really need that, which has kind of also helped me stay on the path.
So the first day.
Oh
So
yeah, I
you
found this.
found the fixture.
I moved recently, and you can pass this around, but. So I had a friend who took this picture on the very first day in '93. I don't know what the date was, but had lost this picture for a long time, and it turned up about 2 weeks ago, and we'll pass it around. I guess kind of be gentle with it. It's the only one. We haven't made any copies of it yet. It means a lot to me, so you can pass that around.
So we'll pass this around here, but this is what it looks like, a black and white.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
And this was from
the downtown.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Day
So
one.
Pass this around here. Day one. So 22 years ago. All right, I'll hold it up here. Is that better, Stacy? So don't you want Mark to hold it up? Mark will hold it up. That's not my style. So what were you doing on that day then?
This was construction demo day, which went on for a couple weeks of tearing everything out to get ready to start building it out. So there was not much to tear out. It was pretty raw when I got it. There was just a shell. So tearing out the old doors that were there, beating out all the old concrete footings in the front to be able to put new footings in, and tearing out electrical and plumbing, and just kind of gut job day one.
And that's before you sold anything.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, did you buy the building, by the way? I meant to ask you that.
No, it's still owned by the same family, the Woodruff and Garside family. Their family's been in town forever, and they own the safe storage building right behind there, and own this too.
That brings up another resourceful piece there. You had your kitchen, or you still have your kitchen back in that building, right?
We did for 18 years. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So you grew out of it.
Yep, outgrew that. Yeah, that was sort of a natural progression. We kept expanding within the kitchen space, and then there was just a point it got crazy, and we needed to move to something bigger.
You didn't want to bring the muffins over from your mom?
Yeah, we had outgrown that. It's our first food. My mom had this little muffin business in Dearborn, and I didn't have any food to go with the coffee, and my mom was the supplier of the muffins, and I'd run in every few weeks and bring in a load of frozen muffins and put them in our our freezer and pull them out each morning. And so, yep, she was the first food provider.
A little different now, right?
Yeah, a little different now. Mm-hmm.
So go from muffins from your mom
Yep.
and one employee
Mm-hmm.
to how many employees now?
We have about 100 employees right now. So, yep.
That's a little bit different.
A lot different, a lot more to manage, but kind of a lot more fun too. It has been ultimately. I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't say, oh, you know, those early years were so great. I really have this thing for those times, and they were great. But I'm happy to have 100 and hopefully keep growing.
Have you enjoyed the journey?
I have. I just feel it's been kind of magical. Very, very fortunate, the whole experience, and really just to have met so many great people along the way, from employees and some that I'm still incredibly close with from 20 years ago, and just all the business owners I've met and continue to meet. We have a really amazing town here. I don't know how many people really get it, how great this town and this area is, but I'm glad I stayed. There were many times I wanted to go to Chicago or New York or somewhere else, and you know, had these moments of grass is always greener, but man, I'm glad I stayed. There was a moment where I had an early midlife crisis over a failed romance about 18 years ago, and I was on the verge of selling everything and moving to California to make wine barrels, and almost did it. I was very, very close to doing it, and I'm so glad I didn't. Glad I got over it.
Well, the employees helped then, actually. I mean, you have a good core that's actually really stuck with you. You know, how do you hire people then to actually help you and make that journey a little bit more rich and exciting then to keep you in Kalamazoo?
You know, the employees are always it's always a challenge to try to get new people and keep the existing ones. I kind of got lost on the heart of your question here.
Yeah, so how do you keep the core?
Oh,
of
keep the
your
core.
Employees there. So, I mean,
oh, right.
It takes a lot of effort to hire good employees.
Yes.
It takes even more effort to keep good employees.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, a combination of keeping them interested in what they're doing and challenged, and to a certain extent, I don't think like pay is everything, but that is hugely important, and is you can afford to pay them more to do so. That was something in the early years that wasn't as possible, and as things have gone on, it's gotten a little bit easier to pay more to get people in up front initially, and to keep them there.
Yeah. So how big does the core have to be to really help you do your job, so you're able to make the business more successful?
I think, you know, I haven't done an exact count, but I would say 12 to 15 people. So the managers of each department in each area. We need that many at least to have a life, basically. You know, if it wasn't for those people around me, really all of them, the whole 100, you just wouldn't have a life. Would be completely chained to the place.
So that goes back to a work-life balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
That now you worked a lot in high school
Mm-hmm.
and in college. Do you think you work more or less now than you did when you were an employee?
I think it depends. I think overall I'm not working as much, but there are moments where we opened this new store in Portage, and I was the general contractor for it, but also did a lot of work. We got very behind, and I was sort of in the mode of do whatever it takes to get it open. And the last 6 months I was there all the time. The last 3 months of the project seemed like more so, pushing 50 hours a week, and then the last month I just should have put my bed there. It would have been easier, really would have. And if anyone's been involved with restaurant opening, they're just extraordinarily difficult to get every little detail done. So I had worked more in that last month. I was working 80 plus hours easily during that last month, but you know it after doing it all this time, you know what to expect, and so it helps to kind of mentally prepare. At least it did for me. I knew what I was in for and had great help along the way, and then we finally opened, and thank God.
So your 3 stores, you have Borges as well as the 4th one inside of Gloucester. So the 4 stores all have different feels to them. How do you come up with the ambiance in the downtown one versus Oakland versus the Portage and Borges stores? I mean, because people like hanging out there. Right. So what do you do to make that happen?
I think that the aesthetic part's a huge part for us. We would never, I think we're kind of by default, technically we're a chain, I guess, but we would never stamp out every store has to look like the next. That would never happen. And because have a love for design and sort of the whole building process, and each space is a little bit or a lot different. We try to make each one different, but have some themes that carry through. And Kirsten Field is our creative director, and she is responsible for the way everything looks, and I mean everything, down to every color. Every color on the bag, every placement of everything in the store, every light fixture, every bulb, every piece of graphic and paint on the wall, and it's really her masterminding it. I have sort of a loose kind of, hey, I'd like to see this or that happen, or try one color or another, or one material or another, but it really, she's a genius and gets the credit for making that happen.
It's really nice. Now, did that creativity ever take you down in terms of finances? Because it could be where creativity is considered something that actually doesn't lead to revenue or profit. Did you ever see that happen? Did you come close to that as a company, or either because of the creativity piece or because of other operational issues?
Wow, that we could write a book just on that. That comment. Yes, I mean, we battle with materials and design all the time because it's just so much easier to crank out the same thing in your chain or your restaurant or your coffee shop, and that's how you get to be big, giant, monster machine, is you are efficient that way, and we're not, and it's never going to happen. Just no desire for that. So that means that every project is going to have a certain battle and a certain increased expense. But I'm hoping that our customers get it enough and appreciate that it is different and it's not cookie cutter and each one is different. So yeah, it definitely is something I think up front is a struggle to make everything work, but I think the end result is we would never do it any other way, so I'm hoping everybody else kind of gets it and likes it too. Yeah.
So running a store versus running a wholesale business is a different ballgame.
Yeah.
So do you keep business together, or you keep them separate, or how do you actually make the decisions for one side of the business, which is more wholesale, versus the other side of the business, which is more retail?
They work together. I think overall we try to mesh it as much as possible. I mean, we don't run separate books on it. We probably should from the wholesale side, but we're not really to that point yet. But the wholesale side is a lot easier to run. The stores take up 85% of the time, and wholesale maybe takes up 15% of the time and energy. But there's a lot of crossover because you're trying to make sure that you're roasting things that both sides of the business can use, and one impacts the other because your wholesale customers also come into your store and see that, and that carries over onto the wholesale side. So they work together a lot.
But not if you're a CD store, right?
No, yeah.
So you learn a lot about coffee.
Yeah, yeah,
Do
they
you-
continue to.
Do you
Wow.
like coffee, by the way?
I do. I love it. It's something that you can never know everything about. It's just endless and it's constantly changing, and keeps it fun, dynamic. And I do. I love coffee. I love all the new changes and the things that have come up in the last few years in the coffee industry, with the slow pour movement, slow bar coffees. That's really been an incredible, I think, huge positive influence on coffee in general. It'll continue to change, I'm sure, always be dynamic.
Do you think you can start a business without being passionate about what you're doing?
Do you think you could or I could?
Well, you think you can be successful? How
Oh.
about that? Now, we'll ask, could you?
Uh-huh.
All right, and then do you think others could do it? Do you recommend it to others? How about that?
I think there's probably thousands and thousands of people that have businesses that they're not passionate about and make unbelievable money doing it, I'm sure. It's not something I could do. I need to feel a connection and tie to it. It's not all about the money. There's so many other parts about it that are, for me, wildly, more important. And if I don't love it, I couldn't do it. That's just me personally. Doesn't mean there's not people out there that do it and are probably happy, but me, it's integral to kind of who I am.
Because you don't look at the competition that much, and you have,
Mm-hmm.
Starbucks, you'll have, Big B's and other coffee shops that are around here. What drives you then? Is it not the competition?
It's not really. I don't. Of course, we have competition, but it's not something that I've spent, and maybe to a flaw, have not spent enough time worrying about or concentrating on. It's something where if I go travel somewhere, it could be another town close by or another city that's got a lot of great coffee shops, or just a whole different thing that we do here, and just take away from those experiences and try to add them into what we're doing. And so that's not competition, it's more what am I influenced by? And it could be here or it could be kind of anywhere, and it comes in all forms, from coffee to design, to going into a museum, to going into a restaurant, to talking to somebody. Talking to people here tonight, it's been interesting. I kind of in my little bubble. This has been nice to kind of get out of it and talk to some different people, and kind of everything influences me in a lot of ways. Yeah, not competition in that classic sense, though, I think.
So intrinsic
Yeah.
motivation.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm going to get you out of your bubble now.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to open it up to the audience here in terms of question and answer. I'm going to pass the microphone around. All right, and then just raise your hand, and I'll give you the microphone. So any questions that you have for Mark to get him out of the bubble? So, right, yeah.
When you first started roasting coffee, not just for the stores, but to do the wholesale, what was the type of volume that you were roasting in? Are you doing like 100 pounds a day? Did it start it off, or was it something where you were doing unbelievable amounts of coffee every day?
Oh no, tiny. So the roaster, the first roaster we had, we were just roasting just for the shop downtown. I'm pretty sure we didn't have the Oakland Drive location at that point, and so whatever we were using in a given day, and so I'm going to say 50 pounds, 50, 60 pounds maybe. Yeah.
For you to drink, right?
Yeah, that was just for me. Yep.
You've opened up now, you said 4 stores. You got some metrics in mind, or how do you decide when you're going to do a 5th, or are you going to do a 5th?
Yeah, we're definitely going to do more. And we're not super, I guess we're kind of metrics oriented, but not probably as much as we should be. It's gut, what we think about the location. We do look at traffic count is huge, and accessibility and parking. Landlord has become much more of a concern lately, who we would rent for them and who we wouldn't. And then we just kind of work as a team and try to decide, hey, does this seem to make sense, what we know about the area and what is important to us, and make the decisions based upon that.
I like the part of the story where your mom makes the muffins. I really like blueberry muffins a lot at Waterstreet, and I'm curious if the recipe has changed at all since your mom made the first muffins.
Yeah, I think so. She did make a mean blueberry muffin, but I'm pretty sure it's not hers. Carla Richards has been working for us on and off for the last 20 years, and I'm 99% sure that she still works for us now. I'm pretty sure that's her blueberry muffin recipe. So Carla gets the credit for that.
Hi, Mark. My name's Stuart, and I worked across the street when you were building that place.
Wow.
And I watched you work really hard, and I felt so sorry for you. Because I had watched like 4 or 5 businesses go in there and fail for like 2 years.
What were you doing?
They fail, they go in, they fail, they go in, they fail. And here you were pouring concrete and doing all the electrical, so it's really great to see you be successful.
Thank you. What were you doing across the street?
I was brewing at Bell's.
Okay.
I owe you some payday.
Hello. Okay. What's the one thing that you know now or that you've learned along the way that you wish you knew when you started, or that you wish someone told you?
Wow. Johnny had me come up with a couple things. Let's see if I can tie this into there. Some words of wisdom, maybe, more than what I wish I knew then that I didn't know then but know now. Okay. And I don't know that I got an exact answer, but I'm going to just say, hey, he said 3 things you want to tell these guys that they should know, possibly to think about when starting out their business. Know what you are not good at. And I feel like that is so important. And not that I felt like I ever knew or was really great at any one thing, but I think that kind of ties into, there's some point in time where you gotta hand off the reign of an area of your business to somebody else that is going to do a better job than you're going to do at it, and you need to know when that point is. There's somebody that's going to do a lot better than you at that. I had another one that just said, kind of live below your means. Whatever that point is, it sort of is going to be a necessity anyway. With probably starting up a business, for most people, it was for me. And I just kind of have always kept that, and have just tried to reinvest everything possible into the business. And then said, kind of, as you can afford to be as generous as possible. And if you don't have the money to be generous at that time in your business, try to be generous of spirit. I'm not sure I can really define that. Hopefully you guys you get that like generosity of spirit and soul part. If you don't have the money to give to somebody or help to somebody, there's a lot of other ways to give back. So.
Hello. I'm curious about how you go about taking care of your payroll.
Oh, wow, that has been a struggle over the years. We did it internally for a long time. We went for a payroll service for many years, and now we finally got to the point of hiring a full-time internal accountant who is incredible, and he does it. We do it internally now. Yep.
follow-up question. So when you moved in there, that location was horrible for traffic. It was a drive-by location. So you had a business model that was based on walk-in traffic and people arriving there as a destination business. So how did you resolve that as a startup?
You know, I'm sure it was complete naivete. I don't know that we ever resolved it. We just, the parking's terrible over there. At that time, there was little to no walking traffic. And I don't know, in some ways it's a miracle that I'm sitting here, that we made it through those early years. It defies any logic in a lot of ways. It was, like I said, it didn't make sense, but we just stayed on the path and always tried to do the best we could and make it better on some level every day. And it worked, and I think people found us and figured it out and figured out a way to get there and still do and battle parking over there. Walking traffic's increased hugely, which is great. Nice to see that in that area. But I don't think there was a game plan for that. There wasn't. We just did it and hope for the best.
How do you know when to add or remove things from the menu, and how often do you do that?
We change seasonally, and there's a menu change every quarter. And there's some things that are just like the standard classic things that we'll always have. And then sometimes you put something on the menu and you think it's going to be great and it doesn't sell, and so it goes away. Yep.
So, my daughters and I were stalking the Portage location as we were building it and kept waiting for it to open up. I probably saw you in there with the handwritten sign. Now,
Oh, yes.
so now that it's open, how is the traffic? How is is it getting as many people as you hope?
Yeah, I think internally when we picked that location, we thought, hey, this could be, in a lot of ways, it could be our best location. It could be the busiest one. We ran a lot of numbers and tried to figure out what our daily break-even was going to be, and thought, okay, well, this seems reasonable that we can do this over there at that location, and we've hit our break-even since day one, and have been doing consistently better and better and better. And I think in a year, in a full year, it'll be the busiest store. So at least it's on track for that. Thank you. Thank you.
To follow up on that question, is there a worry when you add a new location that you're going to cut into the traffic of one of your other existing locations, that customers are, instead of actually getting new customers, you're just going to move them over to the new location and hurt the old one?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a huge concern for that. I think we use the new store, the Portage, as an example that was so far removed from the other locations, it wasn't really a concern. I'm sure everybody knows that we're kind of convenience and ease of access culture ultimately, and especially coffee. So if you have to drive more than a few minutes out of your way, you're not going to go. So the next closest location was the Oakland store, and that, if you're doing the speed limit, is every bit of 15 minutes away. So there wasn't really a concern. Oh yeah, maybe we'll get some people that'll come and check it out, but their normal daily routine, we didn't think we would cut into any of the other stores, and so far that's proven to be true.
How long had you been thinking about starting up a business before you actually went forward and started one? And then what motivated you to go forward and take the plunge and just go for it?
That's a great question. I'd come up in a family where everybody had multiple jobs. They had their day job, and then they had some other business. and just came up in that culture and was very influenced by that. And I think at a very young age, I knew that I didn't want to work for anybody else. I wasn't really sure what that meant, but I just kind of knew that it seemed like that was something for me. And that might have been, it was probably in late grade school where I thought, I'm going to do my own thing. And I'm sure it was an uncle or a cousin or somebody that was doing that and wanted to be like them and didn't really even know what that meant, but sort of stuck with that. And yeah, I think that was very early forming of that. What was the second part of your?
What motivated you to go forward and take the plunge?
Well, when you get out of school is the best point in time to take a risk because you have absolutely nothing to lose. I mean, I had graduated from Western. I didn't have a big love for like academia and what my degree was in, which was finance. I was a terrible student. I barely graduated. I'm not kidding. It was a math major, which that kind of finance and math major, if you've gone through school for it, no, it's pretty technical. And I am not a technical math guy. Why I stuck with that degree, I did. So when I got out, I knew, hey, I got to do something, and it's not going to be anything to do with my degree directly. And had saved up enough money, and this was the right time, and decided to do it. Yeah, so it was pretty quick out of school. I tried to make it happen as fast as I could. Yeah.
Have you guys considered or even attempted to expand your market with other avenues such as like alcohol or full service dining or anything else you've tried?
I think all that has been talked about and is on the table, depending on what day. We also try to do what we do best, and all those other things are wildly more complicated. Full service restaurants are extremely tough to do and to do well. We have this great kitchen facility, and we have everything sort of in place to do something like that. And I think there's a point in time that maybe we would. Alcohol, or at least doing beer wine, is a possibility, maybe at some point, as something to think about doing. But I think for us coming up is we'd love to hire somebody in Metro Detroit to be our wholesale sales rep out that way. So if anybody knows anybody or has any kind of interest, reach out to us. We'd love to put somebody over there. And we're definitely going to open more stores coming up too. So kind of trying to stay with what we feel like we know and do best is on the immediate horizon. So
is that maybe, sorry, I'm going to be,
yeah.
Is that maybe the time to make the change? If you're opening a new store, you have the opportunity to implement the new whatever it's going to be.
Yep. It was heavily talked about. Portage kind of late in the process. The liquor process is difficult and expensive, and I think where we're at right now is the cost of the liquor license that we need. We don't see how we would ever pay that back because we're not a bar. Liquor license are extremely expensive and hard to come by, and maybe there's a time, but we haven't figured it out. So hopefully, maybe someday.
What was the biggest obstacle you had when you start up your business, and how did you overcome it?
Can you say the first part of that again?
What was the biggest obstacles you had when you started up your business?
I'm sorry, the biggest obstacles.
Yeah.
Okay. The biggest obstacles were really money. He didn't have any, so I was trying to figure out how to open this business with little to no resources. I had the time, so that's usually a big hurdle to get over, but I did have that to be able to put into it, but it was really the financial piece of it, for sure.
curious about whether anything that you have tried has just really not gone the way that you thought it would, and what lessons you might have taken away from something like that.
Yep, could write a book on that. And I would say probably the best and sort of fun one was we, for those that have been around here long enough, we did an ice cream stand on the corner of Pitcher and Water Street, and that was just huge fun to do it, except it didn't make any money. So that one's probably our best example, I think, of something that was just, I wouldn't even say it was a huge failure. It just was a fun project, and it looked great, and it was very romanced by that space, and still am. And I'd love for somebody to do something there at that corner. But it just, it was the wrong time. There was no parking, no foot traffic, and it's a huge wind tunnel over there. So it just, for so many reasons, was didn't work out. But yeah, that was definitely one.
I haven't been to all your stores. I've just been to 2. But the ones I've been to, you don't have drive-through, and just from a business perspective, your larger national competitors get a lot of business through drive-through. Has that been a conscious decision for some reason, or have you guys thought about that?
Yeah, the drive-thru locations are very hard to come by for a company our size. They're highly sought after. They're incredibly difficult to come by. And when they do come up, they're just so extraordinarily expensive. You kind of need to be Jimmy John's or McDonald's. That being said, in the new store in Portage, we were able to get a drive-through lane over there. It's a little bit funky and a little bit quirky how you get to it, but that was our first one, and the next project coming up will definitely have a drive-through too. And I don't know that we would do another one without one at this point. I'm hoping we can battle it out and find those locations, but man, they are tough to come by. It's been very hard. We'd been looking for easily 10 years before we found the one in Portage that we could make happen and afford. So yeah, but we definitely like to do more of them.
Simple question. How long did it take before you started making money?
I mean, I could live off of bread and water and be really happy with good bread and water, and beer too, right? Even though I'm more of a mixed drink guy, but yeah, beer too. And I really have lived by that, just always sort of reinvesting and not, buying a lot of things and not being a big consumer and reinvesting in the business. So that part's been easy, but I think it's a discipline that's incredibly hard to do and stick with. So from day one, the place has kept me alive. I've always been able to pay my rent and buy food from the first day. Now it's been at an extraordinarily minimal level, but I've done it and been happy through the whole process. At any point, I've been happy with whatever I've had available to me has been the right amount and the amount that is able to live off of.
You couldn't live off coffee? You couldn't live off coffee?
I get right. Yeah, I could probably.
So my question is, when you first started your business, you obviously didn't have very much money or anything to go off of. How did you come up with such a good product? I mean, you really had to put a focus on the coffee. How did you have the money, or I know you had time for it, but to actually take a bean, figure out how you're going to roast it, how you're going to make it, and then implement it? How'd that go over?
I think you just learn as you go. I'm sure anybody that's been out there's some people sitting out here in this audience that would probably agree to this, that there's no book for the majority of this kind of thing, especially for coffee back then. There was some people that helped me a little bit in the early days and tried to tutor me and mentor me a little bit on the coffee end of things, but there just wasn't anything out there. You really couldn't go anywhere and that I could afford to go to and find out and learn, and so you just read and experiment, and your customers and your staff, and try to draw from what you have around you to do the best you can, and going for those places that influence you. So there wasn't a lot at that time around here that you could go to, but you could, you know, make your way to Chicago or New York or another city and see what they were doing and be influenced by that, and try to bring that back and make that part of your thing, which is, I think, big part of it.
I was just curious, have you ever been tempted to do any other startup like now, since you've done coffee, or is coffee it and that's it for the rest?
No, I've kind of always messed around with fixing up real estate and buying real estate when I could, and I've been able to pick up a couple properties that been some fixer-uppers and some good opportunities. Some have tied directly into work, where I've been able to use them for where our roasting building is. Was able to pick that up in about '98 and use that. And that was also kind of an attempt to diversify, not to have everything in one Waterstreet basket. I think there's some things I'm looking at right now that really have nothing to do with directly tied, though influenced by what I've learned, or a product that I thought, hey, this would be a great thing that should be out there, should be done. I'm trying to follow through a little bit on that bucket list of being involved in a couple other projects that don't really have a direct tie-in to here, and helping some other people out too that are trying to get some businesses going. I'm trying to be involved where I can, if it's just kind of in a mentor role, or financially, if it works out, would like to do more of that as time and kind of some money allows, to be able to branch out beyond just the Waterstreet things, for sure.
I'll ask the last question. So I get to ask last formal question, but we'll actually be around here for another 45 minutes. They can actually come up and talk to you here. So Mark, I'm kind of leaning on to the roaster building here and asking the question, what needs to happen in Kalamazoo going forward to make it a more vibrant place to go? It is a vibrant place so far. How do you actually improve? What is missing in Kalamazoo, or what needs to be done more? I hint at the roaster building, some other things you've been doing. So.
Wow, I mean, this town's a really great town. It's a really amazing place to be in so many ways. I guess one of the things that I'd love to see happen is, and it's happening, again, there's some people in this room that are really doing some incredible things that really need to be sitting up here, John. And probably more along the lines, I feel like it would be nicer if we could move a little bit faster. I'm not a big trend guy. I'm not into the latest fad and craze necessarily, but it seems like by the time the trend has gotten here, it's already passed. And on a lot of levels, I would like to see that kind of change here. And a quick one would be, I'm just baffled by the Stewart area and the Vine neighborhood, where they more or less have stayed for the last 30 years on the same plane. Some streets come up, some go down, some come up, some go down. But why we can't look to, you know, even as close as Chicago, that has got this incredible mixed use in any given neighborhood, and all sorts of income levels, living in the same street in the same area, and you have beautiful old historic houses next to beautiful brand new contemporary structures. Maybe it's because I'm kind of an architecture guy, but I just feel like changing a couple of these neighborhoods that are so close to downtown and making them more dynamic and vibrant, and not just sort of really largely rough and tumble student housing. I don't know why. I wish that things would move a little bit faster in that way here. I think it would make a huge impact on the community.
Well, very good. That's actually a very good answer to hit on. They come up and ask a question about that a little bit more. So let's give everyone a hand to Mark. All right, thank you.
All right, thanks everybody. Thank you.
So along with Mark, I also want to say thank you to Maestro. Maestro actually was the one that actually hosted this, so that's very good, Maestro. Rhino Media, who's playing, who's actually recording this, so we can actually come back and look at it a little bit later. And for the food, Chef Wee and Victorian Bakery. So hopefully y'all enjoy the food. Thank you all for coming out. Mark will actually be up here just hanging out.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Get to ask him informal questions as opposed to the formal questions. Thank you again. Big hand.